Hey, Matt.
No.
All right. Let's just get started then.
No more jokes. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 2M Football. You didn't see my hand gestures.
I saw something going on over there.
It's something.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Matt, and we are back in action, and this time we're taking a stop in our capital city.
That would be Washington.
It's a very good one. That wasn't a test, but you definitely needed to think about it.
And
yes.
the team in question, it would be the Redskins, who had an 8-7-1 record in 2016.
The ones always throw me off because I never think of ties in football.
I know, and they're actually 2 this year, and I believe they were in back-to-back weeks.
Probably.
Weirdly enough.
A lot of overtime games this year, too.
Mm-hmm. Always exciting to see. Actually, I think the Redskins tie was in London against Cincinnati.
Oi, governor.
Yeah. So this, I have no response to that. Yeah, 8-7-1 would have been good enough to win some divisions, but it was 3rd place in the NFC East. So it was a pretty decent season, and they were just a few games away from a playoff spot, and mostly led by this high-powered passing offense. So let's jump right in.
Yes, let's.
The Redskins averaged 24.8 points per game, which was 12th in the league, 403 yards per game, which was 3rd best in the NFL. 297 of those were passing yards, which was 2nd best. But rush yards were a little bit down, 106 per game, which was 21st.
Oh.
So let's get started with Kirk Cousins.
Wait.
Yes.
What happened to RG3?
Matt, I have some very bad news for you.
No.
RG3 is no longer on an NFL team.
No! I just kid, I do.
And so Cousins has been the starter for a few years. And for reasons that I just can't understand, the Redskins will not sign him to a long-term deal. This is the 2nd year in a row he'll play under the franchise tag. And
Which is more than a long-term contract.
More money, but it's less security. And even though he had another great season, he threw for almost 5,000 passing yards this year with 25 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. So his 4,917 pass yards was 3rd best in the league behind just Drew Brees and Matt Ryan. That's pretty good company to be in.
Yeah, if you're up there on that list, not much to complain about.
Right. He also completed 67% of his passes, and he was a big play machine. He had 69 completions of 20 or more yards, which was 2nd place to Drew Brees with 70.
And to steal your line from a previous show, I didn't know this about Kirk Cousins. I thought he was the Alex Smith type short passing yards, or as you like to call it, a noodle-armed quarterback. But I didn't realize he has a big arm.
He does. He really throws.
He can throw the ball, and it's a tight ball, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, that really took me off guard watching some of these plays. I was like, oh.
That's why he and Deshaun Jackson have been such an amazing pairing.
Tandem.
But as we'll get to, sadly, Matt, I have more bad news for you about the Redskins.
Just ruined my day already.
And Cousins also completed 13 passes for 40 or more yards, which was 3rd to Matt Ryan and Phillip Rivers. And he has one of the best deep balls in the league, as we just discussed. Sometimes, though, he struggles with accuracy on those intermediate passes, and he did have some issues in the red zone. For 5,000 yards, 25 touchdowns is a bit low, and that was lower than you'd expect. And that was because a lot of times, too many times, they were unable to convert in the red zone and had to settle for field goals. Overall, though, I really do think he's a good quarterback, and he deserves a long-term deal. But I wouldn't be surprised if his numbers dip a bit this year after losing some of his most talented receivers from a year ago. Luckily, they have a pretty solid running game in newfound talent Rob Kelly. He was an undrafted rookie who started the season as the 3rd-string running back behind the starter Matt Jones and the backup Keith Marshall, who was a draft pick last year. But a preseason injury to Marshall and Jones' fumbling issues led to Kelly getting a shot at the starting role, and he did not look back. He looked really good running the football, and throughout the season racked up 700 yards on 168 attempts with the 4.2 average and 7 total touchdowns and 0 fumbles, which was key, as we'll get to, for Matt Jones. Actually, let's do that right now. Matt Jones. He started a few games last year, and he started this year as a starter, but he fumbled 8 times in just 20 games. And
versus Danny Woodhead, who fumbled twice in his entire career.
I know, right? It's amazing.
I had to. You know, you
I don't
wanted
think
to
anyone
say,
knew that. No, you're right. That's a mind-blowing stat to me. 2 fumbles in like 10 years. Whereas then there's the Matt Joneses of the world who fumble 8 times in 20 games. So, as I mentioned, he was the starter at the beginning of the season, and he had a pretty good average, 4.6 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns.
Wait, was it positive or negative at that point?
It was positive.
Okay. Well, if you fumble the ball, it could be 4.8 yards going backwards.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Ah!
I don't think that gets factored into the calculation.
Well, it should.
So 7 games he was the starter, had that healthy average and 3 touchdowns, but the fumbles were an issue. And then Jones missed just 1 game with a knee injury, and Kelly got a chance to start. And Jones never got a chance to see the field again, really, because Kelly was so good, yeah. So I think they're in good hands with Kelly as their primary running back. They've also got Chris Thompson, who he's the third down pass catching back. That's pretty much his role. So moving on to wide receiver, they lost Deshaun Jackson, as I mentioned. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Isn't he on the Eagles?
What decade are you in? Deshaun Jackson and also Pierre Garçon left in free agency.
Oui.
Jackson to the Buccaneers and Garçon to the 49ers. And to help fill that void, they signed Terrell Pryor from the Browns, which I think is a great move. Pryor looked really good for them last year. Pryor, of course, the former quarterback, and I'm expecting him to take over the number 1 role.
He's no Deshaun Jackson, though.
No. He's a different kind of receiver. Pryor's a big guy with some speed, but not the explosive speed. Like, Pryor's the kind of guy who ramps up to really high speed because of those long legs. But Jackson can fly, literally.
Yeah, that's why he was an Eagle.
I still think they'll miss him. Jackson, that is. But Pryor's a great signing. I'm happy for them.
It just means that they don't have a huge gaping void of like, who's starting at number 1?
Right. And another guy who kind of broke out last year is Jamison Crowder. Last year was his second season.
Oh, he was exciting to watch.
He was, and he played the slot mostly. He had 67 catches for 850 yards and 7 touchdowns. And they did a lot of wide receiver screens with him. And he has really good vision as a ball carrier.
And that's perfect for a slot receiver.
Right.
Work in the middle of the field.
And they used him for punt returns last year, too, where he averaged 12 yards per punt return, and he also took one to the house. And it's a similar skill, kind of.
His house?
I don't know if it was home or away game, but someone's house. He ran into someone's house with a football after a punt return. You know how you see them run through the end zone into the tunnel sometimes?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes they keep going out into the town, break into someone's house and run in. That's what they mean when they say take it to the house.
That's the new 4K HD 3D TVs.
Yeah, it's so 3D. He comes into your house with oh, that's funny. All right, yeah, so Crowder's good. He'll keep playing the slot, and I think the guy that's going to be across from Pryor is Josh Doxson. He was the Redskins' first-round pick last year out of TCU, but unfortunately he only played 2 games last year with injuries to both Achilles tendons.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
But they're playing a wheelchair?
Is there a wheelchair league? You know, there's a wheelchair tennis.
And there's a wheelchair basketball. There
has to be wheelchair football.
Brett Favre would be the quarterback.
Ooh.
I had to.
Ouch. Yeah, that's fine. I always take shots at your favorite quarterbacks. It's got to be flagged, though, right? They don't just ram each other until they're sideways.
Let's not get off topic here.
I think it's far too late for that. But back to Doxson. The report from, I feel like I'm saying that dog breed. Dachshund, you know what I mean?
Just read your notes.
Do you even know what I'm saying?
A Datsun? That's a car.
No, there's a dog called
a Dogson?
No. All right, I'm done with you.
It took this long.
Reports are that he's fine. He's working really hard to get back to full strength, and he's already running drills again.
Reports are he's A-okay.
Yeah, unlike Matt's going to be after this.
Trying to drink something.
I'm going to kill him.
Yeah, that's about to happen.
Doxson has prototypical wide receiver size at 6'2", 200 pounds, and in college he showed off strong hands and the ability to fight through coverage. And both of those are great signs for a transition to the NFL. So we'll get a chance this year to see him with the full off season of prep, more time to build up rapport with Kirk Cousins,
And that's going to be the huge thing is this rapport he's got to build up because he works so hard to get with Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon, and now they're gone. So now, thank God Jamison Crowder's still there because that's at least one guy that we know Cousins is comfortable with. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if Crowder's numbers went up a little bit while everyone else is still feeling everything out.
Yeah, I just really think the vertical passing game is going to struggle compared to last year because of the loss of Jackson.
Well, that explosive speed's going to be missed because, like you said, Pryor needs space to get up to speed. But if Crowder can draw the linebackers in a little bit, that would allow Pryor a good post option between the safeties to get that speed going.
And we did see him running the post effectively in multiple games for Cleveland. I remember when we were covering them, saw him run it well. Because once he gets up to speed, he can just blow past his safety if he's not already running. So moving on to tight end, they have some great receiving options here too. Primarily Jordan Reed. He's a receiving tight end who has great talent, but he's had injury problems throughout his 4-year career, unfortunately. He hasn't completed a full season yet, and I did this for a few other players because it's interesting to me, but I've wrote down all the injuries he's had. Starting in 2013, his rookie season, he had multiple concussions that year that led to him being placed on IR. And he apparently tried to hide them from the training staff. That's why he suffered multiple and it took them a while to finally get him placed on IR, which is not smart. But he had a concussion, so what can you say? What can you do? 2014, he missed 3 games with hamstring injuries. 2015, he missed 3 games with concussions. And last year, he missed 2 games with concussions. So a lot of concussions, which is scary to see. In just 4 years, there's only been 1 year where he didn't suffer a concussion. And he also struggled through a shoulder injury. He didn't miss any games strictly because of it this year. But
a separated shoulder, too. That's ridiculous.
You could tell he's in pain every time he...
But, like, he'd get hit and you'd be like... And he'd get up and he'd be like, oh, that hurt. And then he'd be like back in the huddle and you're like, dude, I don't know whether to applaud you or tell you those concussions have made you brain dead.
He wants to be out there. There's no doubt about that.
And I understand that, and I have a tremendous amount of respect, but this feels like a Wes Welker scenario.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows the Wes Welker, what happened is he suffered a lot of concussions in his time with the Patriots and later with Denver, and that's why he ended up retiring, even though he was...
They tried to make that special helmet for him with more padding or something, but it's just dangerous at that point.
And it being the fact he's such a big receiving threat, it's almost unavoidable. Unless they bring in a secondary receiving tight end to put him on a rotational role.
I'm glad you said that because that's exactly what happened this past year with Vernon Davis. Yeah, it's a name that we didn't hear much in the last few years because his career seemed to be pretty much over after dwindling production in his last couple of years in San Francisco. And then 1 year in Denver where he just did nothing at all. But in 2016, he signed with the Redskins and had a great season with 44 catches, 580 yards, and a pair of touchdowns. And they just re-signed him to a new 3-year, $15 million contract. And he's a great backup plan for when Reed is forced to miss time. Even both of them on the field. Like we always talk about the 1 year with Gronk and Aaron Hernandez. 2 threats in the passing game at tight end. And they've got a pair of passing tight end threats here too at Davis and Reed. And I think Davis is actually a better blocker than Reed, so he's actually a bit more versatile in what they can do with him. But he's a great insurance policy for if...
I just think that they need to start moving these guys in a rotational row. Like substituting them out to protect Reed, because Reed is a great threat in the passing game. I'd say even more so than Davis. Davis has the versatility. But with Reed's concussion history, you want this guy to be around a lot longer to play. And at the rate he's going, he's not going to last but a few more years.
So moving on to offensive line, they've actually put together a really good group up front, especially Trent Williams, the left tackle. He's one of the best in the league already. Cousins only was sacked 23 times this year, which was 4th fewest in the league, which is a testament to all these guys.
That's hilarious.
What?
No, go on.
Okay.
Well, it's because in the games I was watching, like, I wrote down left tackle and I put a question mark because he was getting his, run over and just driven back several times. And I was like, God, this seems to be the weakest part of their line. And then you turn around and you're like, God, he's one of the best in the league. I was like, well, this is interesting.
Maybe he was hurt that game. I don't know. But Trent Williams is good.
This was against the Giants, too.
Ooh. Could it have been against Jason Pierre-Paul?
Yeah.
I forget which side of the field he plays on.
Plays on the right side. So the quarterback's left.
That would be against the left tackle then. All right,
Continue.
maybe Trent Williams is good, but Pierre Paul's just better. That could easily be. But no, that's it.
Oh.
Thanks for disputing my final point I wanted to make on this offense.
You're welcome. I love to please.
I know. I'll turn it over to you then.
So the Washington defense, nothing outstanding, nothing stellar. I thought they were better than what the numbers proved because they ranked at the very bottom in almost all categories. Not bottom, but like close to the bottom.
Mid-bottom.
Mid-bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Mid-bottom.
That's a thing, right?
Yeah, we'll go with that. So they allowed 23.9 points a game, which was 19th, 377.9 yards, which was 28th, 258.1 passing yards, 25th, and 119.8 rushing yards, which was 24th.
Yikes. It's not good.
But it didn't look like it. Like, they were great at causing pressure and disruption. Like, in Week 3 versus the New York Giants, now, I didn't double-check the actual stats that were come up, but what I noticed, they had a sack, 2 interceptions, and a forced fumble. So they're great at generating pressure, which is weird to see them ranked so low because they look really good. They allow, like a lot of defenses in this division, a lot of completions, and they allowed yards after the catch more so than, like, the Giants and the Cowboys, but nothing that was substantial. The problem was when they got beat, they got beat. Like, it was either because of a blown coverage or it would be like the safety missed his tackle. Like, when they happened, they were decimated. But when they, for the most part, when they were on point, they were good. But I think what the numbers show is when you get beaten, they got beaten.
Yeah.
What didn't help them was their acquisition of Josh Norman. Like a lot of these guys, you can't argue the talent. Physical guy, gets in your face, very handsy, and this poses a problem because he was the number 1 flagged player in the NFL. What a surprise. He had 14 out of 19 flags accepted for 104 yards, and 6 of those were illegal use of the hands, and that doesn't surprise me at all. What did surprise me was he was defensively offsides 3 times, which I don't know how
Offsides?
I don't know how a corner gets defensively offsides,
Wow.
but he's playing 1 or 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
But I didn't question it. I think that hurt them a lot because I did hear defensive penalties being called a lot on these guys, just as a team. And Norman needs to realize it's one thing to play physical, it's another thing to be way too handsy. And if you think about 104 yards total for one guy, now you imagine 2 or 3 cornerbacks. Let's say everyone averages 70 yards. That's like 200-something yards over the course of the season. Easily several first downs, field goals, touchdowns. They need to watch their physicality.
Yeah.
And their aggressiveness. And Norman needs to cut down. You don't want to be known as the number 1 most flagged player.
No, that's not a stat you want to be number 1 at.
You know, being the number 1 team in penalties is one thing, but Oakland was good. Josh Norman needs to be respectful, and he's known for causing trouble. We know the whole feud between Beckham and him.
Oh, yeah.
And then when they played Dallas, there was a lot of times he says he likes to get in a receiver's heads. But I think that causes more problems for him than it does for some of these receivers. A lot of these receivers know that's a cornerback's game. They're trying to get you off, and they don't fall for it. Des Bryant didn't fall for it. Beckham fell for it. What I like that this defense does, though, is their edges, their run looked better than what it was. The problem was it was these fake draw plays that got them. If it was a standard like inside run, they were pretty good at only allowing about 3 to 4 yards.
Yeah.
However, when it was a draw option or a screen, they would get beat for about 10 yards of play. So easily a first down or more, depending on where you're at in the field.
Yeah.
The one player that I don't really know what to think of because he was very sporadically used was the former Pittsburgh Steeler Terrence Gavin. He was a very rotational player. He's only 26, his 4th season in the league. He had 16 tackles and a half a sack. And he was just, I put down he was possibly in a nickel formation, but I couldn't tell. Because he was used intermittently in certain packages and certain situations. I'm wondering if they don't go ahead and just let him go and get a couple of fresh faces in here. Something that's, he's young, but I don't know if they need to just get him involved more to make an impact. But as you said, he was a rotational player back in
Pittsburgh. Yeah.
But this defense needs to, I think, generate a bigger pass rush, which is a trend that we're seeing with these defenses.
Yeah, they've had a couple of guys leave through free agency already. One of their defensive ends, Ricky Jean-Francois, I don't know if he was any good, but he was their starter, and they released him. Can't have been too good, I guess, then. And then at tackle also, they've had Kedrick Golston and also, I believe, Ziggy Hood leave in free agency.
Ziggy Hood is a huge loss because Ziggy Hood was actually one of their best rushers.
Oh, no. Sorry, they re-signed Hood.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah. No,
Don't make me panic like that.
Sorry, no, that's a good move. They re-signed Hood. A couple of the other moves that I like that they made is they brought in safety DJ Swearinger.
Yes.
He's a young guy. I think he's only 26. And he'll be a pretty good safety for them. And then Preston Smith, also at outside linebacker, came over from Buffalo. That's a good signing, too. So these are some moves that'll help shore up this defense, but I think you're right. They need defensive end, pass rusher.
It's just, and this is something we've seen in all these teams thus far in the league. It's just they when they generate a pass rush, it's great, but it's got to be consistent. And all these teams against the pass rank towards the bottom. So it's just, they need defensive ends that can beat these tackles. But other than that, I mean, I like where this team's headed.
Yeah, agreed. It's a time for everyone's favorite part of the program, the end. Did you have anything else on the defense?
No.
All right, cool. Let's move on to the TLDW, Too Long Didn't Watch. Today we're talking Redskins. They're 8-7-1, third place in the NFC East. I don't know what... Matt, do you have something to say?
No.
Okay. He was being weird. Yeah, third place in the division, didn't make the playoffs. Kirk Cousins had another great year, but they just franchise tagged him again. They will not commit to a long-term deal, unfortunately.
I haven't quite figured that one out
I don't get it either, especially when they're taking away his best weapon in Deshaun Jackson.
Like, nah.
And then they're going to blame it on him when he's not as good next year. Let's see. At running back, Matt Jones got benched, lost the starting job to Rob Kelly, who looked great. I expect him to come back as a starter again next year. Like I just said, Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon both left in free agency. To fill that void, they signed Terrell Pryor, which is awesome.
They went to Philadelphia and Indianapolis, right?
Yeah, back to their roots. And Josh Doctson, their first-round pick last year, missed all of last season. Oh, he's a wide receiver. He missed all last year. He'll come back as the number 2 across from Pryor, I believe, this year. They've got a pair of great tight ends in Jordan Reed and Vernon Davis, but Reed is on the... He's had a lot of concussions in his 4-year career. And,
it's scary.
It is scary. And we think they should limit his playing time a little bit. Try to keep him healthy and safe. And we have differing opinions on Trent Williams, the left tackle. He's either one of the best in the game or he got his ass handed to him all the time.
Wow, I was trying to avoid saying that phrase and you just went ahead and said it. And I mean, like I said, the problem is we don't watch every single game because we just don't have that kind of time. So it could just be in these instances against the Giants, and then there was one other game, I think it was against the Bengals, where he got pushed back, and it could have just been those games.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it could have just been the games that I watched, he got beat, and the games you watched, he was great. So it's just all a matter of who you're playing, how their defense is built. So there's always, it's hard to say who's really a good player.
Bengals was the London game, so, he was just jet-lagged. I was going to pass on that one. Anyway, and then on the defensive side.
Defense looks good. I mean, they have a big problem. They have a huge benefit and a huge problem in Josh Norman. Great physical, corner, but he needs to watch these penalties. You can't be the number 1 flag player in the NFL and expect to not have issues. How else do you say it other than, you got to stop that? There's a difference between being physical and being too handsy, and he's too handsy. This team desperately needs to dial up on the pass rush, more so than Dallas or New York Giants.
Yeah.
And if they do that, I don't see why this defense can't be one of the better ones in this division.
On paper, they should have a strong secondary, I believe.
I think so.
Norman and Breland are good corners. If, as you said, Norman can cut down on the penalties. They brought in Swearinger at safety, and across from him is D'Angelo Hall, who's been a good player for a long time at the safety position.
So with Terrence Gavin, I have no opinion whether they release him or whether they re-sign him because he's just a rotational linebacker. Maybe get him more involved because he's only 26 and see what he can do to help dial up the pass rush, but that's for the Redskins to decide.
Yep.
And with that, Washington is completed. That's 3 out of 4. We're plugging along pretty well here.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So thank you guys for being a part of this yet again. We hope you enjoyed it. Click that thumbs up down there and give this video a like. Leave your comments below on your opinions of Washington. Are you with us in saying that they really need to sign Cousins to a long-term deal at this point because this is just getting ridiculous and it's costing them more money?
And what do you think of this receiving core? Better or worse than last year? Obviously, you know how we feel. We feel that the loss of Garcon and Jackson outweighs the addition of Pryor. But maybe you feel differently. Obviously, the Redskins do.
And drop us a line at our email listed down below and give us a follow to keep up to date with us on our Twitter handle at
2M_football. We post links to our shows. We react to NFL news. It's a good follow if I do say so myself.
You do.
I did. I just did, yeah.
And we will see you all in the next team.
See you guys.